Today, I'm going to be discussing theme-based learning, also known as thematic learning, what that means, how it can be established in a curriculum, and its effects on education in and out of the classroom. The definition of thematic learning is the selecting and highlighting of a theme through an instructional unit, module, course, or multiple courses. It's often interdisciplinary, highlighting the relationship of knowledge across academic disciplines and everyday life. Also known as the thematic approach, this type of learning began gaining popularity in the 1990s. Commonly seen in elementary school classrooms, ESL or English as a second language classrooms, and cross curricular units, where a lesson integrates multiple academic disciplines into a single topic or theme. The central theme of a theme-based learning lesson involves a subject on which the students can relate to within their personal lives in order to create a more engaging environment. It may also be a topic which can be integrated across different subjects. For example, a themed unit around water can connect science, geography, literature, and art. Of course, theme-based learning can also be used within a single subject as well. John Dewey and Jean Piaget are considered as foundational thinkers of theme-based learning. In the 1930s, Dewey emphasized learning through experiences and believed education should be connected to real-life situations. He advocated for integrated curricula, where subjects aren't taught in isolation, but as part of a holistic, meaningful experience. For example, instead of teaching math, science, and reading separately, Dewey encouraged problem-based learning around a central theme that made sense to students' lives, like building a community garden, which involves science, math, cooperation, and literacy. Jean Piaget focused on how children construct knowledge through experiences. His theory supports theme-based learning because it encourages active learning rather than passive memorization and supports developmentally appropriate exploration through hands-on thematic units. Piaget believed learning is most effective when children are actively involved in discovering and making sense of the world. More modern development to theme-based models began in the 1980s and 90s with educators like Heidi Hayes Jacobs and James Bean, who formalized ideas of curriculum integration, making theme-based learning more structured. 21st century research has shown theme-based and project-based learning improves engagement, knowledge retention, and collaboration and real-world thinking. Theme-based learning promotes many cognitive and social benefits. Critical thinking is a vital skill to have as it prepares students for real-world decision-making. They're able to more readily evaluate their options and consider any consequences that may transpire from those choices. To quote John Dewey, education is not preparation for life. Education is life itself. Collaboration and the ability to make real-world connections instills an individual who is confident in both team and individual settings, who can more readily express ideas and is better equipped to self-correct and adapt to situations. Retention of knowledge can be effective through memorization, but studies show that contextual learning results in better long-term retention and usage of the information within the unit. It also showed that these students were able to use that information more effectively than those using rote memorization within new situations. Arguably the most valuable benefit, theme-based learning creates students who are able to consider other perspectives, making them more capable of engaging in respectful dialogue, being open-minded, and fostering overall more empathetic and thoughtful citizens. Teaching children what to think limits their potential, but teaching them how to think empowers them for life. There are some considerations teachers must take before implementing theme-based learning into their classrooms. This system is intricate, and it is important to establish all of its moving parts before applying it. A theme must be carefully chosen with the consideration that it can be flexible and intriguing while also being used effectively across subjects. A curriculum must align with an institution's learning objectives and standards for their courses, which also creates an added layer to consider when developing a theme based learning unit. Finally, educators should regularly check student understanding and progress throughout a thematic unit, not just at the end. Formative assessments can be ongoing throughout the unit in order to monitor learning and gain feedback that can later be used to improve the learning experience. To state the obvious, the first step of developing any lesson plan is considering the grade level being instructed and appropriate themes and educational levels for that group. For this example, I'm using a ninth grade class. The overall theme is sustainability. This is a theme that has many facets and can easily be implemented across varying subjects. Science may focus on climate, data on recycling can be calculated and graphed in mathematics, eco-themed books can be assigned for literature, and art projects may be made from recycled materials. To summarize the unit, students would be assigned a group project to come up with a presentation on creative ways they might reduce waste within their community. The advantages of theme based learning are pretty clear. This model builds motivation and interest, encourages critical thinking, and supports differentiated learning, where educators can tailor the content of their lessons to better fit the diverse needs of students within their classrooms. Of course, this type of learning model doesn't come without its disadvantages. It is very time consuming between planning a detailed curriculum and possibly having to coordinate between teachers and subjects. Making sure that the educational standards within an institution are being covered can also be seen as a disadvantage, as it adds to the intricacy of this type of lesson plan. There is also the possible complication of proper assessment. Exams are less often utilized within a theme based learning model, implementing rubrics and observational assessments, which are more time consuming. Overall, theme based learning is a powerful strategy when implemented by an educator correctly, promoting interdisciplinary learning and critical thinking with longer term retention of knowledge and understanding.